Hey, shalom everyone, this is Chris Shoemaker, also known as Yehuda Ben Shomer, and welcome to the Daily Drosh. Today's Daily Drosh, I'm going to be going over Daniel chapter 5 and 6. Daniel is a wonderful and great example of how to live a godly life without compromising your convictions, your moral absolutes, and religious standards, and your faith and relationship with God in a totally godless, pagan, and secular society. Daniel was a young exile from Judah, and God pronounced judgment on Judah and sent the entire nation of Judah into exile because they broke the Torah. They broke covenant, and as a result of the decree of doing so, they were taken off in exile. But he found favor in the eyes of the Babylonians who ruled them and took them over. And he rose high in the kingdom of Babylon as one of the leaders, the exilic leaders. And so he lived through three world rulers. Daniel lived through the rule of King Nebuchadnezzar, his son King Belshazzar, and the one who overcame Belshazzar, the king of the Medes and the Persians, which is King Darius. And in each case, God used him in a mighty way to witness to these pagan kings that there is no other God but the God of Israel, that he is the God above all gods. He's the undisputed God and ruler and power of the universe. As a result, we see that Nebuchadnezzar saw put Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel's friends, into the fiery furnace for not bowing down and worshiping a statue of gold he erected. And as a result of surviving that fiery furnace, he was amazed and declared that anybody who badmouths the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be killed, and their house is reduced to rubble. They'd be torn limb from limb. Daniel interpreted a dream for Nebuchadnezzar that he would go insane for 7 years and live like an animal, that his sanity would be restored and his kingdom would be restored. It happened just as Daniel predicted and said, and as a result, Nebuchadnezzar threw his allegiance to the God of Israel and said, "You are the God above all gods. No other God can save like you do. No other God could do like you do." So that was a witness there. Then his son Belshazzar decided to throw this big party and profanely use the furnishings, the cups that were confiscated from the temple when his father overcame Jerusalem, and used it in this big party and orgy, worshiping other gods. And as a result, the finger of God wrote on the plaster of the wall, Tekel, Tekel, Mene, Upharsin, or Mene, Tekel, Upharsin, something of that nature. Basically, it said, "You've been weighed in the balances and found wanting." And so Daniel predicted that, because he did not show respect to the God of Israel and to the things of the God of Israel, that he would be overcome. And that's exactly what happened. Just shortly after that, Belshazzar was killed by King Darius. King Darius came into rule, and he was the ruler of the known world at that time. Then the rulers that ruled in conjunction with Daniel were jealous of his favor with the king and of his relationship with God and of his religion, and they said, we can't thwart this guy or badmouth him. He's beyond reproach. The only way that we're going to trap him is if it's in connection with his God. So they foolishly went to King Darius, who made a decree and say, "Hey, why don't we have this great idea? You're such a great king. Let's have everybody for the next 30 days worship and pray only to you. And if they're found worshiping or praying to any other god, throw them in the den of lions." Hey, like that great idea? It's a great idea. He did it without thinking and made this law, and the law of the Medes and the Persians cannot be revoked or rescinded. So it was a law set in stone. And as soon as this happened, Daniel didn't change his mind. He didn't change his practice. He wasn't fearful of this law. He opened his door towards the east, facing Jerusalem, and prayed 3 times a day like a good Jew does. And as a result, he was caught red-handed praying to something else besides King Darius. And so this broke the king's heart because he knew that there was nothing he could do. So he says, "May the God that you worship save you." He was thrown into the lion's den, survived, and as a result of surviving, the men that put him there and trapped him there were then thrown into the lion's den, them and their families, and before they even hit the ground, the lions consumed them and broke their bones and killed them and ate them up. So I said all of this to say this, that it doesn't matter how godless and how pagan the world or society that we live in. It doesn't matter what laws and rules that they've established. It doesn't matter what standards that they go by. You stand up for God. You stand up for the Bible, whether it be, in your workplace or in your school or, in any position of authority that you have in this world, in this society, whether you're standing up against homosexuality and transgenderism, whether you're standing up against abortion, where you're standing up against all these things that the world right now is proclaiming. If you stand up against them, we're going to be against you. If you stand up against them, you're an intolerant bigot, and we're going to just destroy you. Have no fear. Stand up for what is right. And see, Daniel didn't do it in a haughty or prideful way. He didn't do it in an angry way. He didn't do it in a militant, belligerent way. He just humbly said, you know what? I disagree with you. I can't go along with this because I'm going to go along with the word of God. I'm not going to go against my God. Do with me whatever you wish. I'm not going to do it. Doesn't mean that I hate you. Doesn't mean that I don't love you. Doesn't mean that I won't faithfully serve you, as the king of this region. But I'm not going to, I worship and obey the God of Israel above you and above all else, and I'm not going to compromise that. And as a result of Daniel sticking to his convictions and sticking to his guns, situations arose that came against Daniel and the 3 Hebrew children, and God was able to manifest his power and his glory in saving them from all the conspiracies and all the bad mouthing of the pagans and the rulers around them. And as a result, God got the glory. So no matter who comes against you or what they come against you with, because you don't agree with some work policy because it goes against the word of God, because you don't agree with some state or governmental or national policy because it goes against the word of God, and you speak out against this and hold firm to your convictions, no matter if you get razzed or teased or fired or your reputation run through the mud, God will vindicate you and God will get the greater glory. He will use this for the good, and bring glory and honor to his name through what happens with you. So don't despair. Don't give up. Read the book of Daniel and live the example of Daniel on how to live in a godless pagan society and still serve God and stick to your guns and convictions. Thanks so much for listening. Go out there and have a great day. Shalom and Shavua Tov. Start your week out with a jolt. Join me, Chris Shoemaker, for the weekly Sunday morning jumpstart. Your Sunday sermon to start your week off right.